Hey, what up, jerks? Had a nice night off yesterday. Back today, doubleheader. We're a little behind, but we're ready. We just had to get everything set up in the green room. Nan was having some camera issues, so we got our backup camera. Everything's working great. The sound is great. We've got a great guest today. I'm uh I'm I don't know what to say right now because I started some stuff on X and I don't know, maybe I'll talk about it. Maybe I won't, but there's so much happening right now. April 1st, we got the Karen, retrial, sequestering of a jury, whatever we call it, impaneling a jury. They're going to start having jurors come in Tuesday. We also have the Canton Select Board election a week from Tuesday. We have the Canton police audit about to be released, and there's a lot of court filings. And I'm very excited to see some of them. Some of the stuff I've been talking about on X for a long time coming to fruition. Stuff that I talked about. Kevin, Jennifer Coffindaffer, KP and court filings. Gonna get wild. Gonna get wild. I'm excited today too because we got the guest lineup today, Monday, tonight. So let's just go through it tonight. We got a first time guest, Michael Carlin here from Tupac Assassination, Battle of Compton. You might have seen that documentary. He's been in a bunch of movies. He's a researcher, an author. Right now, we have an attorney, Nan Gallagher, Lawferio, I'm about to bring up. Monday night, I got attorney Mark Betterow back on the show. Friday night, I have another new attorney that we'll talk about. It's going to get exciting with her too, as well. There's a lot going on. Let's bring up our guest. I'm happy. I'm excited that she's back on the show. Perfect timing. This is so perfect. Let's bring her up. Lawferio, at Lawferio, is her Twitter account. She's an attorney, criminal. She does civil. She does, what do we call that? Administrative. She does everything. Everything. She's a legal expert, and she's not one to hold back. She'll speak the truth and exactly what we need today. So let's bring her up. Attorney Nan Gallagher coming back, I think for the 5th or 6th. I don't know how many times now, but every time it's been amazing. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, Mike. How are you?
Good. I'm in the middle of the day, work day funk, like saying today, tonight. What is this? This is daytime show.
I was gonna say, I think you said, how you doing tonight?" And I was like, "It's
I
not
said,
tonight."
I said, yeah, I kind of did like a mangle. I was like, how are we doing tonight day?
Yeah, exactly. Like weekends are so precious, so I try to soak in when someone says good afternoon. So I'm gonna say good afternoon to you and your audience. It's great to be here. Sorry for the delay. I have some camera issues. You're looking at a really crappy laptop camera view. So I apologize, but hopefully it will not glitch. I don't make any secret of the fact that I am not a streamer, and whatever I have been using has worked when I go on court calls. So if I ever developed a channel, which is not on my horizon, I'll have to up my game like you.
My game is not that up. I just feel like I have scotch tape keeping everything together most nights, and I have to check in early, make sure everything's still working.
It has been, you were mentioning the amount of times I've been on your show. It has been such a whirlwind, right? I was thinking about it. I was on your show at like the end of January, and having been a fan for a long time and watching so many different creators to go through all of the channel hopping that I've done to try to get messaging out, all of my roots come back to you, Mike. Thank you so much. It's really it's been a whirlwind, and you warned me. You warned me about trolls. You warned me about just all of the craze of attention, and it has all come. But I've enjoyed every step of the way. trying to just bring attention to not only Karen's plight, but also Aiden's as well. And I'm happy to give any insight to anyone who has questions, or to even just calm, concerns. A lot of times people say, oh my God, they're going to court on Friday. What's it about? And I say, it's no big deal. Like yesterday was a great example. And I apologize, my dog's going to bark a little bit during your stream, but I know out of anybody, you're not
I
going to.
love it. We love dogs
Yeah,
barking.
Roselle has entered the chat. But
Oh,
I will say, like, there were a lot of people panicked. Maybe panic's not the right word, just a little concerned about the hearing that was going to take place yesterday before Judge Sisitsky on Turtle Boy's matter. And I knew just from looking at the filings and the docket, I was like, this isn't going to be of much of a concern. It was more of a status hearing. And I think some people needed to hear that. So I hope to continue with that type of just transparency and calming effect on everybody. And it's always great to be here. You are my roots.
you mentioned yesterday, Friday, with Turtle Boy, Aiden Carney, Better O'Bradle
Yeah.
versus Cosgrove, and and Brennan to an extent, on this whole thing. What's the takeaway from yesterday? Like, what do you think? Kind of drilling down for people that maybe didn't see it or don't know what to make of it. What happened yesterday?
What happened? So very, very simply, the court, meaning Judge Sisitsky, on Karen Reed's docket number, had ruled about a week ago that Cosgrove, the special appointed district attorney on Aiden Carney's matter, and frankly, Hank Brennan, the special appointed district attorney on Karen's matter, that there was a very limited order that he entered, which they were seeking the sun, moon, and the stars to try to find some type of connection between Karen Reed and Aiden Carney, hopefully in their minds trying to support an allegation, and it would have just been an allegation at this point, of witness intimidation, that there was some type of plan, collusion, etc., to intimidate witnesses as related to the death of John O'Keefe and Karen Reed's subsequent criminal charges and criminal proceedings. So that order that the judge, who was a different judge on Karen Reed's docket number, Judge Adam Sisitsky, had ruled that the only thing the Commonwealth was entitled to have on Karen's matter were communications of a written nature between Karen and Aiden, not Karen and anyone else, not Aiden's or anyone else, no attorneys, etc., that would have supported this allegation of the plan or collusion to intimidate witnesses. And when that order came down, it appears to me, and perhaps to all of your audience, that the Commonwealth, vis-a-vis Cosgrove, found communications in an extraction from one or both of Aiden's phones, which it already has possession of, communications between Karen's attorneys, specifically David Yannetti, and Aiden, of any nature. And I dare say I heard some of them on some of the, at least on X, people were posting some of those communications, and there was nothing there. There's nothing having to do with witness intimidation, but Cosgrove wants to get salacious in his mind, communications between Aiden and David Yannetti into Karen's case to try to prove, see, Turtle Boy intimidated witnesses and it was done because Karen told him to. That is completely false. And the parties yesterday went before the judge to kind of talk about what is going to be produced, or at least what they think is going to be exchanged from the Commonwealth to, from Cosgrove of the Commonwealth to Hank Brennan of the Commonwealth on the two different matters. And the judge wasn't hearing any of it. He's like, no, I don't care what happened between Aiden Carney and any of Karen's attorneys. My order was very narrow, and I only want to have produced any communications between Aiden and Karen. Now, as an aside for your audience, Aiden Carney has made no secret of the fact that there's nothing there. He's reviewed the extraction, and there's nothing. First of all, there was no collusion to intimidate witnesses, but there substantively are going to be no communications in that extraction which would even remotely respond to Judge Sisitsky's order from a week ago. So what you saw was a very refreshing judge, Adam Sisitsky, who really put the Commonwealth, both attorneys, Cosgrove and Brennan, under a magnifying glass and a microscope and said, this is not what I ordered. Is there any question as to what I ordered? And that is how judges are supposed to work. They're supposed to be hard on the Commonwealth too, which is why attorneys like me, and I know Mark Betterow and others, we get so frustrated. And essentially where it left off, Cosgrove has the weekend to go through that extraction again and try to find communications between Karen and Aiden specifically that would show or demonstrate witness intimidation or a plan to do so. And I am predicting he's going to find nothing, if anything, minuscule little pieces of information between the two talking about the case, which they should have been communicating about that case. Karen was under, criminal investigation. She had been charged. Aiden had his teeth into the case and was very aggressively reporting it, but in a legally compliant manner. And by Monday, you'll see, or maybe by Tuesday, if it gets posted, that Cosgrove has found nothing. There's a long-winded answer to the fact that this is nothing to worry about. And everybody got to see how a judge really should treat attorneys fairly on both sides. That's why no one saw Yannetti or anyone else on the line really strenuously object to what was being argued. And that's why you didn't see them in court. They all appeared by Zoom, including Mark Betterow. No one was worried about it. And the only person who should be is Cosgrove.
Sir.
Yeah.
Alessi's Binder has a question. They said, what does Dan think of the defense motions asking Commonwealth for more supplements?
Defense motions asking Commonwealth for more supplements. The requests have us. Okay, so I'd have to know, Boo Alessi's Binder, what specifically you're referring to. I'm not sure. Are they asking for? Hold on, because this is like a second job to me, guys.
Yeah, there's a lot that's coming out.
I want to say I saw some documents or demands yesterday where the defense was really asking the Commonwealth to drill down on specifically some of the documents they have and some of the information that the Commonwealth has been seeking. But I don't specifically know, and maybe you do, Mike. I was a little busy yesterday. I'm not 100% sure I know the answer to that. I will say this, in terms of what the defense is doing is exactly what I want them to be doing. And I know other attorneys who practice in the criminal defense world want them to be doing, which is put the Commonwealth's feet to the fire, make them be accountable in terms of what evidence they're going to be producing or what position they're going to be taking before the court. But to that person who asked the question, if you want to try to throw that question again, or anyone in the chat with a little bit more specificity, I'm happy to answer it. And I always try to review the chat as much as I can, given my visual impairments, but I value all of your questions. Oh, any witnesses?
Answers. Yeah, this is about any witnesses not wanting to testify or if they changed their testimony.
Oh, yeah.
Or if any of them are reluctant. I did see that too. It's funny how you read it, but you forget it because there's so much coming in. That's what they're talking about. Is
Thank you.
Witnesses reluctant to testify, if they've been paid off, if there's been any of that, any extra stuff going on.
Thank you so much, guys. And I always want to point out to you all, like it, and I think it helps the creators too. But for someone like me, you're all so vital. You're all so vital to me because you just refreshed my recollection. What the defense asked for yesterday is actually something I have only seen one other time. in about 25 years of doing criminal defense work, where the defense is asking the Commonwealth for things like, let us know now if anyone changed their testimony or gave an inconsistent statement or has advised you they're reluctant to testify. That's so unusual, and it signals to someone like me a few things. One, the defense has reason to strongly suspect that there are witnesses who are going to be called for the prosecution, who the defense thinks may have given a prior inconsistent statement to them or have expressed reluctancy. An example could be, and I don't know if this person was on the Commonwealth list, but the gentleman whose last name is Scanlon. I think Scanlon, and I don't know his first name, but
Steve.
he,
Steve Scanlon.
Steve.
Yep.
I know Steve Scanlon, who's the individual who originally had reported to David Yannetti that this appeared to have been some type of physical altercation. And he did that in the first few days following the accident and the death of John O'Keefe. And then he since recanted. Now, while I don't think Scanlon is on the Commonwealth list, Scanlon is on the defense list. What the defense wants to know, and using him as an example, is, well, did you speak to Scanlon? Has Scanlon ever told you, hey, I really don't want to be involved here. I don't want to give that type of testimony because if I'm put under oath, I have to say A, B, or C, which might not be favorable to you. So using Scanlon as an example, that kind of illustrates what I'm talking about. The defense wants to peek behind that curtain or look under the hood to see what the Commonwealth is hiding. It also ties in to the fact that in Massachusetts, and specifically in Judge Bev's courtroom, in the manner in which she is exercising her discretion within the bounds of case law, she has ruled that any type of impeachment type of evidence that might be used against a witness at the time of testimony, that comes in and has to get exchanged between both sides before the trial. So the defense, using Scanlon as the example, the defense wants to be able to say, well, we want to know everything about him, for example, or any other witness, if they've changed their tune, if they've expressed their limit of what they're willing to talk to. So thank you again to the chat for reminding me. This is a extremely useful discovery tool that the defense is employing. And the answer to it is going to be very helpful to them, because if Brennan, for example, says, no witnesses, no one has told us they're reluctant to testify. Okay. So that will, if need be, if something were to come out in the future, that will put the Commonwealth in a very precarious situation if they've somehow committed to a position that might not be so accurate. So thank you again, chat, for letting me know that. And I'm really excited and intrigued at the more aggressive approach, if they could even have gotten more aggressive, this more aggressive approach by the defense. That's what it's going to take. What happened in trial 1.0, I can't criticize the team for doing that. They really thought, as many of you do, that this was a clearer pathway to an acquittal. They've now realized, and rightfully so, in my opinion, that they've got to roll up their sleeves and say, we're going to have to play hardball and even a little dirty when it comes to some of this stuff within the ethics rules, of course. Yeah, that's right. That's so right. It's necessary. And it's funny, I was watching a clip, Mike, earlier from, I think it might have been during Trooper Paul's testimony. And, Alan gets a little snarky, as we all know, and I think many of us love, but Alan gets a little snarky in his questioning of some witnesses, and Judge Bev constantly kind of chastises him, like, come on, Mr. Yannetti, I told you can't do that, or you said you wouldn't do it again, which is improper for a judge to say in front of a jury. But I was watching a clip where she chastised AJ, and he said, of course, Your Honor, Absolutely. And she says, well, you say that every time, but you continue to do it. I would encourage AJ and any other of the defense attorneys to keep doing it, because she doesn't seem to fully cut them off. And sometimes it takes a little bit of pushback to really move the needle on this stuff without making a jury not like you. We don't want the jury to not like the defense attorneys. But if Brennan's going to play dirty, which in my opinion he has, and I'm happy to give any examples of that. But if he's going to play dirty, turnabout is fair play.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I
Seems
think you're
like
all going to see that. You're all going to see that in trial 2.0, which I'm here for.
that's exactly what it's funny you brought that up, because I've got some sources, and that's exactly what they were saying today. Just today. They're saying that the defense is gonna be so much more aggressive this time.
I think you have to be aggressive. Any attorney, and I'm surprise, surprise, I've been known to be aggressive myself. It's an art. You have to make sure when being more aggressive, whether it's in your delivery, your questioning, your argument directly to a judge, which would not take place in front of a jury, that you don't create an unintended effect, which is to turn the listener off, whether it's the judge or the jury. So it is a skill. And each of the defense attorneys, each of them have their different attributes and strengths. For example, like I can't imagine Alessi. Okay, let's just talk about him for a minute. I can't imagine him being too aggressive to a point that he's going to turn a jury off. If I make a prediction about him, he could be so high level and complex in his questions that could not turn a jury off, but go over their heads a little bit. So someone like Alessi, he brings his skill set, but I don't think he's going to offend anyone. Someone like AJ, I get it. I actually have a similar personality. He might turn some people off. So you have to know when to push the gas, pull off the pedal, sometimes hit the brakes. And it comes from years and years of doing it. Not many lawyers come out of law school being able to do this. Karen's got the best team, and I'm really excited to see what, if any, Victoria George, the new attorney and prior alternate juror, brings to that mix as well.
Glad you brought her up, because this is wild to me that since the first trial ended in a hung jury, we've never stopped talking about that jury. Like, that jury has been in the news from, how did they actually, decide? Did they, you know, the whole thing, about the verdict, just from that, even though that just got turned down, but that's been a subject of discussion ever since. And then you had the interviews with jurors like Ronnie and other ones. And then now you have Victoria George, which is just the latest twist. How surprising. Like, have you ever seen anything like that? Like, and what do you think she might bring to the defense team?
Yeah, I have never seen anything like it, and little side story, I just like to gab, Mike, that's why I love chatting with you. I feel like I'm talking to an old friend. But I've never seen anything like it, and from all of the attorneys who have been, weighing in on it, I can't speak to Betterow, when I say that, but I know his points on it. But I've been, I watched the attorney panel on Court TV. I watched an attorney panel on another stream. Everyone's kind of like, whoa, this is so avant-garde. No one has even envisioned this. Like, it's just, we had to pause for a moment and say, huh? Like, can that even happen? And attorneys analytically go through, by the way, KP, I agree with your comment there. But attorneys, in our minds, we know how to kind of quickly go through and do a checklist analysis. Like, okay, is there a conflict of interest? Is there something that would ethically impede her from doing this? And the answer to that is no. So it was a surprise. In fact, when I heard about it, I was getting ready for the day or shuffling my kids off to school before I went to court later. And I was asked to hop on seeking justice, and they were like, "Can you talk about this?" And I went through it, not even knowing all the details, and I was like, this is great." So I think this was done for a few reasons. One, because of Victoria George's deeply held beliefs. I think she, as an attorney, is frustrated with the fact that the criminal justice system seems to have not only failed Karen Read, but Victoria George. Victoria George is an officer of the court who put herself through law school and all of the schooling before that, and probably feels like, with her prior jury experience before Karen's case, this is not the way things are supposed to go down. And then since the mistrial, look at all of the rulings that have come down that have just not really done anything to uncover the acquittal on charges 1 and 3. The other thing I think that's in play here is that the defense is going to use Ms. George not just as a jury consultant. Like, I hear a lot of people say she can be a great jury consultant. I think that is, and I say this respectfully to anybody who has made that comment, I think that tremendously undersells her value to the team. Here are my thoughts. One, she has not only beyond jury consulting that she can do here, she has seen how the sausage is made on this case. She has seen and has received how the presentation of evidence from both sides, even though it's now Brennan and not Lally, she's seen how the evidence comes in. She's also seen, at least without being part of deliberations, how that information has been digested by jurors, whether there were glances, facial expressions, anything like that. She also has seen, in her mind, and it's subjective, what worked for her versus what maybe didn't, what maybe something that was a little tone deaf or didn't land right. Or, now that I know what I know, I wish they would have spent more time on this. So all of that knowledge, she can bring it to the team beyond consulting on what type of jurors to select. And she can give her input regardless of whether she has a criminal defense background, which I think is not that significant to the analysis. She can be doing brief writing, cross-examination drafting, direct examination drafting. She can ask questions herself. She doesn't have to just draft these questions. She can, I don't know her skill set, but if she's good at asking questions, even in her civil practice or her former civil practice, she can ask questions of witnesses. She can collaborate with the team, divvy up work. So all in all, she's another sounding board. I also, while I'm not 100% sure that you all can expect to see her at the defense table every day, I don't know if that's the plan, but I would say from an optics standpoint, it is helpful, in my opinion, for there to be another female, just kind of, quote, standing up on behalf of Karen Read. It balances optics. I wish optics didn't matter, but they do. I know from experience that matters. But beyond the optics of being a female, I am very biased when I say this, but female attorneys, Mike, are badass. They are
Right.
badass. So I'm excited to see what Victoria George can bring beyond jury consulting guidance here. And anybody who discounts her as just giving jury consulting information and saying things like, well, she's not a criminal defense attorney, I think they're missing the mark. So she's one to watch for 2.0.
Amazing. It
That was
is.
a
It's a
great article, Alessi's Binder. You're right. It was. Anyone who hasn't read the Vanity Fair article really should. It's not a long read. And isn't it refreshing for a publication with such a large audience to really emphasize issues that are so important on this matter without the skew of mainstream media?
absolutely. And
Yeah.
it's great that she is like part of this now after, She doesn't need any catch up. She's so, like you said, she's got a unique perspective. She exactly what you want from a juror's perspective. I just wonder too about the jury tampering stuff too, because that's
Yeah.
also part of the ongoing jury stuff that it just got poo-pooed by the judge. But
You
you
know,
just wonder about that stuff. You wonder if she has any insight on that too.
yeah, and so I want that's a great point, and you remind me of something, which is I probably should have mentioned this with relation to Victoria George. She is not permitted ethically to serve as a fact witness in court on behalf of her client. So she can never like submit affidavits or anything on motions concerning like jury tampering, giving her personal memories. Like, I remember officers were leaning up against the door and listening, or we did see fanning in the hallways. She's not allowed to do that. That is an ethical prohibition. An attorney for a client cannot serve as their quote fact witness. That's the only guardrail in place with her. But she is 100% ethically permitted to give that type of insight to the defense team. I'm confident if there was any fanning involvement or any other officer involvement that was problematic, questionable, she's I'm sure she's told AJ and Yannetti this among the whole team, saying, no, this is not as pure as the driven snow as Judge Bev makes it out to be. And she's allowed to do that. And I'm very interested to see if they glean any information from her, or even she may give AJ, Yannetti, and the rest of the team some guidance in terms of, yeah, you should watch how carefully the jury is watched, or watch how carefully those bingo ball numbers are pulled, picking alternates. Like, that's all fair game for her. And that's a great comment, Karen. Like, can you imagine Bev's face when Victoria entered the scene? I'm sure Judge Bev, who's a lawyer, did exactly what every other lawyer did, which was go, oh, okay. But I still would not be surprised if Brennan makes a stink of it between
Oh, yeah.
now and normally attorneys, Mike, we would say watch out for a filing. He's going to file some type of quote concerns about Victoria
But
George.
this guy doesn't. He waits till
Right.
court, right?
He does. He
He
That's
doesn't
right.
he doesn't oppose, but he does. But I'm not gonna be opposed, but let me tell you why she shouldn't be on the legal team. Like, that's what he'll do,
Yeah, he's
right?
like, I'm gonna step on and step off of it. So someone like me or Bettero or anyone else can't even say, well, he never objected. He's supposed to put any oppositions or concerns in a sworn affidavit or an opposition filing. He's probably not going to do that, frankly, because he knows it's going nowhere. There's no merit to that type of argument. But I wouldn't be surprised if sometime between now and Tuesday, at some point in this chain, he raises a concern, and specifically tied, in my opinion, to the Vanity Fair article, because there is a gag order that I don't remember the date it was entered, and maybe your chat can tell me, but there is a gag order on all attorneys on the case from discussing the case outside. You can't do that with the media. So maybe Brennan says, well, she entered an appearance and then this Vanity Fair article dropped. But I don't think that was the timeline here. It's my suspicion. I have no facts to support this, but I think I'm right. That Victoria George probably knew she was going to be joining the team, joined the team, and didn't have to enter an appearance yet, but had a conversation or was interviewed by Julie Miller of Vanity Fair before the gag order was put into place. And there's nothing that the court can do to stop Vanity Fair from publishing its article when it did. So I think it's a nothing burger, but I think Brennan, in true form, is going to say, well, Your Honor, I object to this. She shouldn't be serving as a juror. I do hope that Judge Bev thinks twice before she makes a stink of this, especially after what I do conclude to be an improper ruling keeping Bettero off the team. I think she was wrong on that. I think she misapplied the concurrent conflict of interest rules as it relates to Bettero. I'm disappointed that he's not part of the team. I think it's a loss to Karen, which she'll recover from, and Mark will recover from, but it's a loss to her. And if Brennan starts again, true to form, knocking out her defenses or her assets one by one instead of affirmatively advancing the prosecution, that tells me everything I need to know about him and the Commonwealth and their approach.
Buddy, for a while, I stopped talking about these worst offender trolls. I call them the PR team for the Commonwealth in this case. We know who they are. I mentioned a couple of them earlier, but lately it's I'm starting back up covering them again because the stuff that they say and do, Brennan does. It's like they're ghostwriting Brennan's stuff now, like his material. And it's
Yeah,
so funny because as soon as Victoria George got announced, they all just started attacking her. And it's so telling too, like what they're afraid of by their attacks. Like they always go after you got it. You've been through it.
you
It's
predicted it.
yeah, all right. I mean, they do it a better row. They every time I have a big show, they come after me. That's only after a big show. Like then they let it go, and then they go after But they were attacking you for a while. I've noticed.
It's still present
But
tense, Mike. It's
yeah,
still,
yeah, right. It's still happening, but there's waves of it too, right? I
yeah.
mean, there are, yeah. But no,
You
I
know,
mean, they went crazy on her. What do you think about that in terms of their campaign and how Brennan amplifies it. He plays into it. Everything he is doing, like he's basically saying that Karen controls the FBI and the US attorney, that stuff that the crazy guy from the attic and the other dude, I don't even want to say their names, but you know who I'm talking about, the two dudes.
I
They
do.
they were writing these conspiracy theories and now Hank Brennan, that's what he's been running with. What do you think about all of it?
I think that's a great observation and a great question, and thanks for asking it. First, let me say this: any one of your viewers who is on X, if you see that kind of stuff going on, where there's someone's getting trolled or a new move from the Karen Reed team is getting trolling in response. For example, the addition of Victoria George. You can always feel free if you want to if you're responding, if you feel impassioned enough to respond to it, feel free to tag me in those types of responses because it takes a village sometimes to fight off some of the stupidity. And, I'm not encouraging anyone to get into battles with trolls, but, you can always feel free if you need some help to do that. But I will tell you, Mike, I think that it is abundantly clear to me that Brennan is in some type of relationship with trolls. And by trolls, I mean all different layers of them, ranging from the more prominent names in the anti-free Karen Reed movement to lesser ones, and ranging from the lengths at which these people go to insult people, to affect their businesses, to dox people, and the like. But I've seen enough from Brennan. I mean, he has put unsupported statements before the court on things that make me go, how the heck is he saying that? Did he literally just cite some unsupported statement from a witness, or not a witness, from an expert that, for example, the 13th Juror podcast, Brandy Churchwell had interviewed a particular gentleman down who was related to the Alex Murdaugh case. And she interviewed him on her podcast. And Brennan took some of that gentleman's statements and presented them in a verbal argument to the court as if they were somehow vetted and substantiated, and that he had the report of an expert to prove it. So there is gamesmanship. There's a lot of backdoor dealings going on. I'm sure, just based on my observation of trolls, that they are doing everything in their power to help fuel the prosecution. And no matter what people like me, people like you, people like your viewers say, in terms of everybody should be concerned if this is the type of way a prosecution is done in Norfolk County. Everybody on both sides. I was saying that on my first stream with you, which went nowhere, by the way, Mike. The trolls didn't care, but these trolls, they consider themselves the paralegals of the Commonwealth. So, do I think Brennan should be wasting his time relying upon them? And no, I don't think so. And I think he's really showing me that he's really willing to do anything and to go to any level and to sink to any depth to just get a conviction here. And that should concern everybody.
It should have concerned him
I think it
by
should.
what he's doing in terms of liability. Like, could he? Do you see any scenario where it kind of bites Brennan in the butt that he's in the mud with these people?
Yeah, yes, and also because of some of his other conduct that has nothing to do with trolls, making unsupported statements to the court, saying things that are clearly incorrect in an effort to gaslight or obfuscate the truth. He tried to do that, by the way, with Judge Adam Sisitsky a week ago on that motion that he filed to get Aiden's phone extraction. And the judge Sisitsky called him on it yesterday. And he said, no, 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 notwithstanding what you're saying to me, I asked you a question on the record a week ago, Mr. Brennan, and you gave me a different answer. Did you not understand my question? And anyone who hasn't seen that very short hearing from yesterday on that matter, I encourage you to watch it, because Brennan was in the hot seat and he had made incorrect statements to the court a week earlier than that. And this yesterday was an example of a judge saying, no, so you were not correct in what you presented to me. And Brennan had to, quote, apologize. He's like, oh, I'm sorry. I thought I was answering a different question, Your Honor. And he's not used to doing that because, in my opinion, Bev enables him, and Bev enabled Lally. She allows them this long leash to make these grand, sweeping statements before her and before the jury and before the world on these publicly broadcast hearings that are nowhere grounded in truth. I do think, and I can't speak very specifically to it because Mr. Brennan is a fellow officer of a court, maybe not the courts I'm admitted in, but I would be very worried if I were him that my conduct in making these unsupported statements also in some of his filings, they're going to come back to bite him. He will have to answer questions someday. And I do not encourage anyone to file any type of complaints against him or against Judge Bev. That's not my style. But I do think there will be a reckoning one day. Yeah.
Hope so.
Yeah, I do too, because some of us, and I do say us because I'd like to group myself in that list. Some of us actually feel like, we went through this training, we have our experience, and we have integrity, and that is really what brought me out to come a little bit more publicly in this matter, and ultimately sat me down in front of you where I was very nervous that night, Mike. But I think it's time, and it has been time for a long time, for those barristers who have had enough with watching this complete kangaroo court to step up and speak out. Oh, and thank you so much, Stacy Face. Stacy Face Travels. I love your handle. That's
Thank you,
great.
Stacy. Um,
Happy to
I-
share it.
yes, and you mentioned earlier some of the defense attorneys that
Yeah.
they all have the different strengths and opening and closing statements. Who do you think should give them? Who do you think is strongest? There may be multiple people that you think are strong for each one. Tell us which ones do you think should be in consideration for the opening and closing? Who do you think it's going to be?
I think and none of my opinions by any means insult any of the ones I don't pick, but I think that the opening statement should be given by Alan Jackson. One, and I think I was saying this on a stream with you and others a week or so ago. I think it's simply just to mix things up. And if you have Yannetti give the opening, and his opening was so great, my kids love to watch it. They think it's so fascinating. But for Yannetti to give that opening is it's not going to surprise the Commonwealth. And I think there needs to be an element of surprise here. You don't want a cookie cutter opening statement or a cookie cutter closing. So having AJ do it, he is, as far as my perception, really the lead counsel. He'll never admit to that. He'll say that's not how we view our team, and that's admirable and probably true. But he's going to have the most prominent voice before this jury throughout the trial. And having him give the opening and probably having him give the closing would be what I would recommend. But I think Yannetti is a close second. So even if Yannetti and Jackson flip-flop and Jackson gives the opening and Yannetti gives the closing, that may work as well. I do not see, as much as I absolutely love Alessi's style of argument, that is how I like to argue, which is very outlined and meticulous. I tell you where I'm at, I tell you where I'm going, and then I get you there. That's how my brain works. I do not see Alessi as an orator who's going to skillfully be able to enrapture and encapture the essence of this case and the corruption and the travesty like Jackson or Yannetti. I do not see that Ms. Little would be effective at the opening or the closing at this point. But that's probably, I feel that way probably because I actually haven't heard her argue that much. Once I see her argue more, I've probably seen her argue 5 different issues, and she's been extremely effective when arguing them. But because they don't rely upon her to cross-examine or procure direct examination from a lot of witnesses, juries can be confused if she then gave the opening and the closing because she's going to be a little bit of a stranger to them. So yeah, those are my thoughts. I would have AJ do both though. He's exceptional. And they all are. I had an opportunity to meet them all, and they're more impressive in person. Like felt like I was fangirling, shaking their hands, and they're like, "Oh my god, no!" Like they're just
They all
real
know you.
people.
They all know you, didn't they? They watched the shows, right?
Yeah, maybe not all of them. I didn't get the sense that Alessi or Liza knew who I was, which is
But
fine.
but Jackson and Yannetti.
Maybe.
Yeah, yeah.
You
That's
know.
how I felt actually. I'd never met Alessi, but it was, Jackson's wife actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
That's
And some
awesome.
of yeah, they're nice people. I love them. And Yannetti, he's the guy from the North Shore. I just love Yannetti. They're such good people. Someone mentioned it in the chat tonight, Alessi. I thought he was like us. I thought he was a Gen Xer. He's older than us. He's like he looks our age, Dan, but he's older. Did you know how old
Yeah,
he is?
I did. I don't know how old he is, but I did not think he was a Gen Xer. So I knew
I
he.
did. You thought he was a boomer?
Yeah, I love how you guys say boomer. That's so funny.
I
I
get it
knew
from
he
JFK. He talks a lot about the boomers.
I knew he was older, but um it's so interesting. Like he is perhaps one of the most methodical cross-examiners that I've ever seen on highly complex issues. And it's the person who gets second place on that for me is Alan Jackson.
I would say Jackson, yeah.
But it's the two of them, and I cross-examine witnesses all the time. It is really hard to do.
Oh, yeah.
Really hard to do. And Linda Kenny Bodden of Justice Serve TV, she was kind of describing, she had a case previously opposite of Alan Jackson. I think it was the Phil Spector case. But
Oh,
she was saying Jackson is such an effective cross-examiner because he's really listening. That's a skill. A lot of lawyers will just have their outline and they ask their questions and they're not really
listening.
bobbing and weaving based
Yeah.
on the answers they're giving. Anyone wants a great example of Alan's skill in like learning new information and being able to bobble and
Bounce.
weave
Yeah.
is Trooper Paul. Trooper
Ye
Paul's cross-examination. But Alessi, he's going to be so critical, either taking the direct exam, what I'm forecasting, the direct exam of Dr. Marie Russell, probably the direct exam of probably the ARCA guys, maybe. I know they have other witnesses. I know they have a medical expert out of Rhode Island, and I'm missing some. This is where my
the FBI, Michael Easter, if he's allowed.
yeah. Yeah. And by the way, everyone should be, if you're like, what's next? Keep an eye out for the
Michael
judge's
Easter.
rulings on Michael Easter and on the use of the third party culprit. That hasn't come down yet, which
Let's
is
talk about both of those. Let's go to
sure.
Michael Easter first. Like,
Yeah.
I
Michael
mean, he
Easter.
looks yeah, what do you think about him? And is it gonna be allowed? Should it be allowed? What do you think he'll provide for the defense?
Well, it's funny. And when I went running this morning, I kept saying to myself, I know I and Bettero and others had always been saying there needs to be a police procedures or an investigative expert. So I'm sure I speak for all of us when I say we were happy one has been advanced. But when I went running, I was like, I don't think, and your chat can correct me if I'm wrong. And by the way, I saw someone say Garrett Wing, the dog bite.
Dog bite guy,
You're
K9.
you're absolutely right. He's going to be pivotal, and I think Alessi should question him. But when I went running, I said to myself, I don't think I ever saw a filed pleading from the defense presenting case law and precedent to Judge Bev concerning the use of the third party culprit defense. And I this is the stupid stuff I think about in the morning. And I went, I know that the judge wants to see a specific precedent from Massachusetts that would permit the defense to advance a Bowden defense, Bowden, which is a defense that is recognized in like almost every state where a defendant can point to the shortcomings and problems with a police investigation. So I don't see that they did that. I do know that there was a groundswell on Twitter, among other sources, of people who and YouTube. People were finding precedent. I think you might be right, Cat B. But people were finding precedent that might apply to support the use of a Bowden defense on this case. So I think Bev may deny or not permit Easter to come in, although she's been pretty liberal with letting all of the experts in. So if she doesn't let Easter come in, that is, in my opinion, so incredibly imbalanced and biased from her other rulings. I mean, if she's going to let Crosby in to talk about dog bites and the medical causation of them, if she's going to let Gilman in by the Commonwealth to talk about, the weather, temperature, and arguably how hard the ground is, hard as a rock, even though Brennan in a slippery way said, well, we're not going to have him say that, Your Honor. I'm sure he's going to say it. So I don't know. I think, I don't know what the judge is going to do. She should let him in. I don't necessarily think she will. And then the third party culprit defense, I was happy to see that Yannetti identified Brian Albert, Brian Higgins, and Colin Albert in court. He named them. There's a certain poetry to the revelation of those three individuals. They did not, they meaning the defense, did not have to name those individuals. I was not happy to see that the judge essentially forced them to. And she kind of said that before 1.0 during a hearing. And at that time, the defense said, we don't have to tell you who we're pointing a finger at. That's our strategy. We don't have to tell you. And there is no precedent in Massachusetts that requires the defense to name these individuals. I was happy to see that they were named. It does appear to me, based on what I was watching happening in court, that Yannetti and the defense have produced to the court what substantive evidence they have to support their third-party culprit defense. I don't know what the judge is going to do. I hope she allows them to advance a third-party culprit defense. And just so you know, when there's a third-party culprit defense, it still doesn't shift the burden of proof from the Commonwealth to the defendant. The Commonwealth has a constant and consistent obligation and burden to prove the allegations and charges against Karen Read beyond a reasonable doubt. That never changes, regardless of whether Karen has said, well, wait a minute, there were others who were involved who actually did cause or were directly involved in causing the injuries and subsequent death of John O'Keefe. So a lot gets lost in the murkiness of it all. A lot of people are kind of reading tea leaves saying advancing a third-party culprit defense might confuse a jury and that the defense should focus more on reasonable doubt. I can understand that. I do think that the two are inextricably intertwined. You can prove reasonable doubt without a third-party culprit defense, but to have those two, third-party culprit defense mixed in with a stronger approach to hammering on reasonable doubt, it's perfectly posited for a jury, in my opinion, to say, I've heard enough here. And that appears to have been what happened with Victoria George, the dismissed alternate juror. She kind of probably hit her point where she's like, I've heard enough here. And that seems to be one of the suspicions as to why her number was pulled and why she was removed from the jury. I don't know. I know I hear a lot of buzz about it.
We don't know. That's the big problem. They don't do things transparently. So nobody knows. Everything's done secretly. They don't show the numbers.
You know what's funny, Mike? In my jurisdictions, New York, oh, pardon the very large motorcycle that just whizzed by. In my jurisdictions, New York, New Jersey, and Washington, D.C., in criminal and in civil cases, when there is, I call it the bingo balls, when you are
Yes.
ruling out the alternates, in those trials I have had, and my trial experience is very robust, each of those occasions, the court will show you the ball. They will, or the piece of paper. Sometimes it's a folded piece of paper. They will show
Paper.
you. And in some courts, in fact, my most recent trial, which was in December, in my most recent trial, the court actually filmed it. There was an overhead camera to ensure the integrity of that lottery selection. So that is an easy fix here. Now,
Should the defense ask for that? Should the defense
yes,
be putting pressure on this? Because I don't think they've asked for it, have they? I mean, unless it's behind closed doors, it feels like that should be asked. Like you
it should
need to
be.
put this draw for jurors. It has to be transparent on camera. We have to see the numbers. We have to see everything. We want to see it as it's happening. That's the only way people are going to trust it. And the court
Yeah.
needs trust.
So, a couple points on that, Mike. One is they should ask. Two, they probably have. Not everything we know of hits the docket. Many
Exactly.
things are handled in a judge's chambers. Now, I have never heard of any meetings that have gone on in her chambers, but in every trial I've ever had, the judge will on some occasions say, I want to see counsel in chambers before you even start the day. So it is possible that all of the attorneys are meeting with the judge in chambers before any of them ever walks into the courtroom on any particular day. So it's possible they've mentioned it and asked. It is not necessarily, in my view, like an appealable issue. Like, so I want them to ask. I want them to have requested some type of integrity and transparency of the selection process. But even if they ask and the judge says no, it's just like one additional factor they could throw into a subsequent post conviction appeal if it gets that far. So there's so many other appealable issues that would be more significant. But I want them to ask that. And the jury alternate dismissal, or the selection process, and the selection of the foreman and his background, it all is sus to me. As my kids say, Mom, that's sus. It doesn't make any sense. That's just not the way I try cases, and you won't know unless you ask. So I think Victoria George should have been the foreperson. Is there a requirement that the attorney on the panel has to be the foreperson? No. But attorneys, as opposed to individuals who were formerly police officers or law enforcement officers who have a history of motor vehicle accidents, which I do not know if anyone knew before he got on the jury, which should have been asked of all of those jury pool panelists before they were even selected. I wouldn't have picked him. I don't think he should be the foreperson. I don't like the level of discretion that the judge, who has a clear propensity to exhibit bias, has to select the foreperson. I don't like that the foreperson is selected before the bingo balls roll. Like, the foreperson should not, or the foreperson who Bev thinks she might pick should face potential elimination in the bingo ball process. And if he, for example, the foreperson got knocked out through an integrity clad bingo ball process, elimination process, then he's out and she should go to her next best pick. But Victoria George, in my opinion, probably should have been the foreperson, because having a lawyer on that in that position would have been able to give guidance to the jury about, yeah, if anyone has questions, we can ask the judge. Or if there are verdicts on counts 1 and 3, we should be filling out the jury verdict sheets here. It's all suspicious to me. So
It sure
yeah.
is. It's another reason why it's exciting to see alternate juror attorney Victoria George is part of the defense, hopefully now.
I
Um,
I I hope so too. I think she's going to pass. She doesn't have to pass through. She is
she's already an
barred.
attorney. Yeah, she is
Yeah.
in. AKA the cat lady said, Dan, how do you handle the frustration, anxiety, and stress of listening to the Commonwealth manipulate and Bev's bias and unfairness?
Let me tell you, AKA the cat lady, and you always throw questions to me. I think you're really sweet. I'd love to meet you one day. Um, I don't handle it well. It's very upsetting to me. So I have to turn to exercise, when I because and that is, I make no secret of that either. Like, that's how I got into shape, was rage running, dealing with some of the BS that went on in trial 1.0 and the pretrial hearings leading up to it. But
Rage running. I love it.
yeah,
Rage.
and it is rage running. I put different headphones on and I would just run and run and run and run, and I went from being fluffy to not so fluffy. But it's hard. I can encourage anybody, include, because I see you're a regular on a lot of these chats, like anybody who needs to just like take a beat and walk away from it all. um the movement will be here for you, if and when you feel ready to come back. But as someone who worked very hard to earn my law degree and to earn my bar admissions and my reputation, I find it very difficult and extremely frustrating. It's been a pleasure since January to hop into streams of different creators to express at least my opinions. I guess it's been cathartic, and if it has helped guide people, I'm happy to have done that. I do forecast that my presence on streams will be reduced in the very near future, because I want to focus on tweeting and watching the trial and helping give written commentary when I can. But everyone knows where to find me.
Cat B says thoughts on no panel or idea motion for mistrial.
Yeah, so that's a great question, Cappy. The fact that the attorneys are not able to ask the questions of these jurors is ridiculous. I know other attorneys have been on streams saying the same thing. What the jury questionnaire and the judge's questions will elicit from these potential jurors or panelists is going to fall short. Many attorneys have come out saying that the jury questionnaire alone, which is really just a screening tool, is insufficient and is not properly tailored to get to the heart of some of the key criteria needed to weed out bad eggs or bad apples. For the judge to not allow attorneys to exercise a muscle that they have really worked hard on strengthening over the course of their careers in looking jurors in the eyes, asking certain questions, seeing not only the response, hearing the response, but looking eye to eye, and assessing if someone's really being credible or if they're being, as I call it, a stealth juror, where you get that a lot, especially on high profile cases. People just want to get on that jury so they can have the attention or the street cred or write a book someday about their experience. It is a skill that attorneys are able to weed out and use as a detector. So I don't like it. Is it grounds for a mistrial? No, I don't see it as grounds for a mistrial, but I also don't want a mistrial. In trial 1.0, I have made no secret of the fact that I don't think that should have been a mistrial. Those jurors, based on the reporting that has come out from some of the jurors in the form of either Ronnie's interviews or some of the affidavits that were submitted in support of motions that have been filed. And I think there was another juror interview by one news outfit. All of what has been reported directly from jurors leads me to believe that this jury not only acquitted on counts 1 and 3, but this jury had all of the elements of reasonable doubt, for them to have, and a disagreement amongst all of them. So not to have said we're hung, but to have said we have enough disagreement. We have reached the point now where we do not have enough to convict, and we should issue our verdict of not guilty. And I think there was a shortcoming in the jury instructions in that regard, in the judge's instructions in that regard, in the guidance, which I think was ill provided by the foreperson, who I'm getting the sense was bullying this jury a little bit as an alpha personality among perhaps another personality on the jury. Were those jurors misunderstood that they should have entered a verdict of not guilty as opposed to hanging. And then you add the added complication of the fact that Judge Canoni did not properly probe the jury once they did hang to find out their true verdicts or lack of verdicts. So it was a what do they call that? A calamity or a comedy of errors, all of which I am very confident to tell you the defense has sharpened its tools this time and sharpened its elbows, and they're not going to allow those things that they can correct to happen again.
Get in. Denise Hoover has another question for you.
Yeah.
If you were going to question one of the witnesses, who would it be, and what is one question you would want to ask?
Denise, this is the kind of stuff that I like. This is the stuff I think about late at night where I'm like, if I just had one shot, one shot. Yeah, I would like to question Jen McCabe. Uh, I think I've said that on another stream too. And the reason I want to question her is because I don't think she would do so well if a woman would question her. I think AJ did a great job, and I think he'll cross-examine her again. But I'd like to go up against Jen McCabe because she didn't know what she's going to get from me. And sometimes women who think they know all the answers when facing other women, this is my opinion, they don't do so well. So I wouldn't let, and no disrespect, Mr. Jackson, I wouldn't keep refreshing her recollection on her request. You know, the court rules and the evidentiary rules say that you can and should refresh a witness's recollection if they don't remember an answer to your question. What Jen McCabe, and you should all rewatch her testimony. She it's like she was ordering at McDonald's. Like, well, can I see what I said? I want to see it. Can you put it in front of me? Can you show me? No, I'm not showing you. You need to tell me if you don't remember. But let's not forget, Miss McCabe, you testified in 1, 2, at least 3 other proceedings. Are you telling me now that you've been tested and probed this hard on these issues that you now don't remember what the truth is? Like, that's the approach I would take with her. And I dare Judge Bev to stop me from taking that approach from her. And the one question I would ask her, I want to ponder that, but I would I would definitely ask her. I think the question I want to know is, why did you call, I think she did it. Why did you call John O'Keefe at, I think it's 12:29? Somewhere in, and this is where my skill set falters without having the receipts in front of me. Somewhere in that timeline, because there's so much that I can make fun of and pick apart with respect to the Commonwealth's position. A lot of stuff happened initially at 12:45. Then it kept eking earlier. But a lot of interesting things happened from a Jen McCabe standpoint when John O'Keefe would have already been struck by the car. So if that's the best I can answer to you, Denise, but I would want to pick apart all of the little phone calls and butt dials that she was making to him in a time period when when Karen was gone. And what was she trying to get at? So I know that's a little vague. I'd really need to drill down on what was written before I could be firmer. But I'm telling you all, if I had one shot at Jen McCabe, just give me one shot, it would be like
I'm already like wanting it, like just thinking about it when you said like how you would treat her about the recollection.
Oh, forget it. Alan
Oh,
Jackson,
it's so good.
if you're listening, Alan, she doesn't get to order a read back of her lies on demand. So you stick it back to her. She does not get that. So if she wants to come across as I don't remember, well, I think that adversely affects her credibility. But
Definitely.
because she was given the courtesy of, okay, sure, I'll show it to you. And it gave her the time not only to substantively look at what she's being confronted with, but to mentally take a beat and say, okay, how am I going to answer this? Let me just take a beat here. And no, you don't get that privilege with me. I'm going to fire those questions at you until I'm blue in the face and you sit back in that chair and you say, all right, I don't remember. Or you sit back in your chair and say, okay, I said this. And then I realized it was inconsistent with your 3 other testimonies. And we have a field day because you will sit there, Ms. McCabe, until I'm done with you. I don't care if Judge Bev rushes me. I don't care if Judge Bev says we have to come back another day. That's fine. We'll come back another day until my examination is done. It's kind of like, folks, if anyone has seen A Few Good Men, when
Oh yeah.
and that was one of the pivotal movies that really pushed me towards becoming an attorney. Like I knew I had a choice between bus driving and becoming an attorney. I knew I was gonna go to law school. But when that movie came out in like the early 90s, that movie did it for me. And when Tom Cruise had Jack Nicholson, so what was it, Colonel Nathan Jessup?
Colonel Jessup.
Colonel Jessup, guys, right? Colonel Jessup's in the chair and he's all like, foot lockers and phone bills. That's what you brought me here for. And, Tom Cruise at some point, and I'm probably missing a bunch of lines, basically says, sit down. I'm not done with my examination. That's what I would bring to Jen McCabe and as a woman, and that's what she needs. By no means, though, am I suggesting Liza or Victoria do it because they seem nicer than me. I'm not so nice, Mike.
Love it. I love it. That would be so amazing.
Yeah, this is the stuff I dream about. It's never going to happen. But she can't handle the truth.
Exactly. She can't. Stacy Base Travel says, Nan, you are a badass. Thanks for your shared insight. I think we posted that one earlier. Thank you so much, Stacy Face.
Thank you. That's so sweet.
We got a question here from Shamwow. What if Victoria did closing arguments and focused on the issue of the DA and police problems that she has already talked about? I think that's what we need. What do you think about that?
She really would be. So first of all, ShamWow, I've seen you put chats up in a bunch of different streams, and I love your handle. I love it. Second, I think ShamWow that she'd be towing an ethical line if she did that, because Victoria cannot in any way really cross a line between what her role is as an attorney and what might infringe upon her personal knowledge base. She can't be a fact witness for Karen. And when you start to blur that line, when you start to question your client about the problems with the DA and the problems with the police investigation, but your questions that you, Victoria, are presenting to the jury, I wouldn't go there. It's getting a little too close for comfort for me from an ethics standpoint. But she can write those types of questions for someone else to ask. So I would just say she should embrace her new role, but not push the envelope from an ethics standpoint. And it will pave the way maybe for other jurors who are ESQs to sit up and stand up. And if there's mistrials or travesties in the future, maybe they'll do the same. And yeah, that's right, Kyle. Calamity of errors. Yeah, thank you. Because I mix up. That's something charming. I think it's charming about me. I screw up metaphors like it's going out of style. I actually learned recently that the lawyer, Peter Tragos, does that as well. But it's a calamity of errors. You're right. Do I think Hank saying on the record in court there has been no communication with Coffee KP? Who is Coffindaffer?
Coffindaffer.
What okay. I think him saying that on the record could get him into trouble. I do. I still always talk about a reckoning. When all is said and done, and I'm optimistic, not of a few things. I don't think there's going to be a conviction. I think she's going to get acquitted. I think there is still an ongoing federal investigation, and someone's going to have to prove me otherwise based on my 25 years of experience dealing with federal investigative agencies. And when Karen is acquitted, not if, when she's acquitted, it is my feeling that whether it's the federal investigative standpoint or some other subsequent matter, whether it's a civil rights action that Karen will file, whether it's just a look back or some type of quote audit of how this all went down, whether it's a subsequent DA. Hopefully hopefully Morrissey gets voted out. Like, come on, right. People, vote him out. Let your voice be heard. And maybe the new prosecutor, when all shakes out, says, I want to look back at this. Like, let's look at our budget. Let's look how this laid itself out. And was this a good use of our district attorney's office? Was it a good use of our taxpayer dollars? When that audit or reckoning happens, I think that Hank will be looked at and his misstatements will come to light. And I think he, out of anyone, has shown that there is a very, very robust pathway and avenue to seek a lot of different information. So I'd like to see, and I think it should be asked for at some point, communications between Hank and or his quote paralegal, who's also being paid for by the county, and any outsiders in terms of what information they're getting, whether they're vetting it, whether they can substantively support it before throwing it before a judge as fact. I think there's a lot of gamesmanship going on, and I do think there will be accountability.
Me too. Every sign of it right now
Oh
shows that
yeah.
reckoning is coming. I'm telling you. I don't want to say too much, but
Oh yeah.
yeah,
I
yeah.
I
It's
know
like you
things, by the way,
yeah,
too.
we all do, right? We're
I'm
trying
I'm
to we try to be careful, right?
yeah.
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 But
And I
these are
don't know
good
how I know
questions.
them.
I'm glad, and this person's name is KP, which is funny.
Oh,
I
yeah,
don't
but K space P. I think
yeah, K space P. I
I
wonder
Hey, KP, you might wanna consider changing your handle. Maybe. Maybe. Just
better than
don't get
yeah.
yourself mixed up with others. It's so funny,
They
my
might be trolling the troll.
so funny, I got into a little altercation with the the original KP the other day on Twitter. And while I don't really love doing it, I think sometimes things like this have to be done. Sometimes you have to push back because some of the misinformation that's being fomented on social media to the untrained eye and to the general public who just hears snippets about this case, if they pick up some of the stuff she's putting down with some level of credence that she somehow has the experience and knowledge base to lay them out. I think sometimes there needs to be a neutralization of that. So I went at her the other day, and you know what her response was?
Well,
Her response was, "She's not a telling the world. She's not a Massachusetts attorney and has no criminal defense experience." To which, thank you to any supporters on X, where I kind of plan to spend more of my time in over the trial. Many of them jumped back at her, as did I, and she and said, "Well, while she doesn't need to be licensed in Massachusetts to know that this is a bunch of malarkey." But also, I told her, I'm like, "Look at my website." Like
I do
she
criminal
cited
defense.
one paragraph on in one part of my website. I said, "Why don't you read my bio?" And by no means am I directing people to look at my website. I don't care about any of that. But if you're going to come out publicly and say, I don't have criminal defense background, you are wrong and you're not listening. And by the way, you don't need criminal defense background to apply legal acumen. And beyond legal acumen, I'm sure many and most of your viewers are lucky enough not to have to be lawyers right now. They don't need legal background to know this is a
What
bunch
about
of BS.
KP? What's KP's legal background, but besides being sued and brought into court a lot?
Exactly. I
I
mean,
mean,
touche, Mike. Touche.
I mean, what's her education background too? I mean, come on.
I don't
I doubt
even
she even
know.
has a BA. I doubt she even has a BA like I do. And I'm not saying I'm a big deal. I got a BA. That's it. Like
I think she knows some. She's not a bad writer.
yeah.
I think that's fine. You're not a bad writer, but I get concerned that some people like believe some of the junk she's putting out there. And I also, for what it's worth, think that if you're going to refer to yourself as with the handle that she uses,
Masshole,
yeah, like
mafia, and then
what are
mafia too. Come on.
what are you saying about yourself? And I'm not even insulting like her appearance. She's come at my personal appearance so many times. I find it laughable.
It is funny. That is funny. She's going after your appearance. You like it's
Yeah,
like It's like, I'm a guy, and I'm gonna say, like, if you compare each other, the appearance, you're a 10, she's a 0. Like, that's
Thanks.
it. Like,
Thanks,
be
Mike.
honest. It's
But
the truth.
you know
That's
what's
the truth.
funny? When I was so I had the thank you so much, by the way. I had the honor, I guess would be the only word I could describe, to meet Aiden Carney one time, one evening. And I can't discuss all of the details of that meeting, but when I met him, I had a nice dinner with him and others. And I said, he was taking pictures, and I said, "Would you mind if I took a picture with you?" He was so nice to me. He's like, "Absolutely." And we took a selfie, and I asked him if I could post it, and he said yes, and I posted it within like 5 minutes, and I posted it like right before bed. Which, by the way, God bless all of you in Massachusetts with your bedtime hours. Like, I don't know how everyone stays up that late. I can't do it. But I went to bed really late. I posted this picture, and by the time I woke up, the amount of people led by KP um, who were saying she uses filters in her pictures and all of this, I was like, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? If that's what you're going at me for, is the use of or not use of filters, if or that I look a certain way, or that has nothing to do with it. I really want to take one moment, because I saw you have some more questions here. I just want to say this so there is absolutely no misinformation. And for those watching, one thing you will know about me is I speak the truth, because I don't have a dog in this fight. I 100% care about one thing, and that is, and it's really a three-part thing, but it's justice for Karen Reed, justice for Aiden Carney, and justice for Officer John O'Keefe. I consider it all justice. That's why I'm saying one thing. So if I can answer questions or be a resource to, in whatever way I say it, whether I cuss or I don't cuss, whether I'm wearing makeup or not wearing makeup, whether I practice criminal defense law, which I do, or I don't, that's all I care about. And if I can keep that messaging moving forward in whatever role I choose to do it, I appreciate you being along for my journey. I'm along for yours. And that I'm going to get off my soapbox. So,
Thank you. Cat Toast is a question. Do
yes.
judges have any influence over one another? Do you think other judges see how biased Bev is? It's surprising she allows the defense prosecution to make her court look so bad compared to the recent hearing.
It's so funny. You have a lot of people whose usernames revolve around cats. Um, yeah, cat
Cat
toes.
people
I
over here.
I do think that judges have substantial influence over other judges. So influence may not be the right word. It's more of a sentiment of peer pressure. So like one judge, from my experience, isn't going to influence how another judge rules. But there's some peer pressure. Judges tend to talk about matters with one another in chambers. It happens. There's this kind of behind the scenes parlance. I clerked for a judge for a year. I saw it happen. It was the busiest county in my state. So that's the way it works. But interestingly, I do think it's my suspicion that a lot of judges in that neck of the woods, not all of them, a lot of judges they'd have to be blind not to see some of the questionable rulings and arguable bias on the part of Judge Bev. Classic example is the fact that as of trial 1.0, only a medical doctor could testify as to the causation of certain injuries. But in trial 2.0, apparently you can just be Crosby to give those opinions, or Gilman to say the ground is hard as a rock. It suddenly doesn't matter. Or a neurosurgeon who has no experience in forensic pathology except for when he had a small little rotation in it 35 years ago. He can start circumventing and replacing the findings of a medical examiner. These are so notoriously obvious that any judge will see it. And one other point on that, Kat, which was that when I heard Judge Adam Sisitsky yesterday in the Aidan Carney Karen Reed hearing say to, I think he said it to Brennan. He said, "Do you want me to put a belt in Judge Cannoni's suspenders?" And I think he said it to Brennan, but that signaled to me that Sisitsky, he's not liking what Cannoni is handing down in terms of rulings. I get it. It could be interpreted to mean that, it's not my job as Judge Sisitsky to tell her, Cannoni, how to manage her rulings in her court. But the subtext is he's giving a harder line approach with more balanced rulings on this matter involving the cell phone extraction, and he's kind of given her a little jab. Yeah.
I didn't catch that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
You should re-listen to it. It's a short
I
hearing.
will.
Yeah.
It's funny because I was streaming it, but the feed I had just cut out like right towards the end, and by the time I got it back up, it was over. So I missed a few minutes of it.
That's
I'm
okay.
definitely gonna check it out. You don't have to answer all these questions either, especially this one. Meatball Morrissey Sketty Stain says, "Have you seen the show Ghost? Do you think the yellow cottage ghost has a superpower like Nigel has? The repulsive."
It's
Just curious.
I
The
have not
repulsive
seen that
smell, I guess, is what he's saying. That's what he's saying.
I have not seen that show.
Me neither.
But as far as
The question?
people who live in cottages and attics, he's something special.
I hope he
He's
takes a shower every day.
He's
Take a
something
shower.
special. But, we coexist. I do not block him. He does not block me on X. I always am interested to see what he writes and what he says, but I look at it with questionable skepticism. And I am very mindful of the amount of people within his quote audience. That is very telling to me.
Yeah, that's always what I remind myself when
Yeah.
interacting with him. Nobody takes him seriously.
Well, he is a court TV expert now, Mike. So
That's putting a book out April 1st. It's probably gonna be out of no shelf life, let's put it that way, if Karen Reed is found innocent. She's found not guilty. I mean, who's gonna buy that book?
maybe I should write a book.
Maybe.
I mean,
Could.
not to be an opportunist, but because
And
that's
more
not the goal.
people, you'd actually sell some books,
I
unlike
am an
him.
author, by the way. I wrote a chapter in a book for doctors, but the reason I'm saying maybe I should write a book is at least I understand how very simple tenets of law actually apply. And I have been following this case since 2022, more notably in 2023. So, maybe I'll throw that on the to-do list as I scale back streams. All right.
Gabby for Justice asked, what happens if Bev doesn't let something in this time that was allowed in last time and a current juror knows about it from before?
So that's a great, interesting question, because that leads me to think you really want to understand more about how this jury is going to be screened coming onto it. I don't know what the final jury questionnaire is going to look like. I don't think the final jury questionnaire has been posted. One was posted on March 21st, and it has since been further, or is still being further, negotiated between counsel so they can agree upon what it's going to look like. But I don't know if the court is going to bump or bounce jurors if they know much about what happened, quote, before. So I don't want a juror sitting on a jury as a defense lawyer if they followed anything from before, although they can. I mean, there's no outright prohibition on that. They're never going to find jurors who know nothing about the case, although I have heard not everyone knows about the case up there. So if a juror doesn't see something that they're aware was let in last time, and and they've made their way onto this jury and survived the bingo balls, a jury is only supposed to consider the evidence before it. So they're not supposed to consider, hey, I knew this was evidence last time and it didn't make its way here. They're supposed to be able to, and take an oath to be able to look at the evidence as it exists and reach their findings based upon what has been presented before them. I hope that answers your question. Yeah. Is anything a 2L could, oh, Kelly Cal, do to help the team? I don't know. You should ask them. That's a second year law student, by the way, in case anyone wants to know. If you're a 2L, by the way, hang in there. Hang in there. It's not, it's not
Almost
fun.
over. How many years?
No.
3 years? Is it 3 years?
3 years if you go during the day, and 4 years if you go at night. I went during the day, but it doesn't get any easier. And then you got to study for the bar exam. And then, it's assuming you're a female because of your handle, it's not so easy for women. Women have to really prove themselves as much as we don't like to think that there's some biases in certain professions. It's there.
There are.
So good luck
Definitely
to
are.
you. Yeah.
But it also makes you stand out too, right? I mean,
Yeah. I
I
mean,
can imagine there's not many like you. So I mean, you
oh,
gotta
stop.
stand out. No, I know, but in the law field, I mean, I gotta imagine you're, that the
Thank you, but
yeah,
I'm a dime a dozen, especially where I come from. Where I come from, it's in the water, as you would say, it's in the water, or the cottage. I gotta, really drill down on my
water,
accent.
the water,
Water.
the water.
We say water, coffee,
Oh boy.
cottage,
Yeah,
but
that's not.
as far as me, I will say it was really hard. It was hard to, in my career. I worked for a lot of starchy older men who had me do all of the grunt work. And I'm sure this happens to a lot of young associates, but I had to do all of the grunt work. And it's a thankless job. You have to prove yourself. And many times I would have to ghostwrite. I would work on briefs till 2 a.m. And those briefs would then get approved by the partners I was working for. And then they would take my name off of it and put their name on it. Or if it was a matter of getting a win in court, I'd get a win in court, but the partner would be the one who would steal the thunder and report it to a client. So it was not fun. I encourage anyone who has an interest in, it looks like there's someone else whose daughter is a 3L. Anyone who has interest in law, and I dare say many people have been inspired to go to law school as a result of these travesties of justice. Keep your head down, hit the books, develop strong writing skills, work on your oration, be able to make strong, commonsensical arguments, play within the lines, make sure you're not violating any rules, and most importantly, remember that your word is everything and your integrity is everything. So if you are not willing to keep your own integrity and promises that you make to yourself to maintain that integrity, you have nothing. And just stand behind everything that you believe in. Otherwise, unless you want to be a transactional lawyer who does contracts, you're not choosing the right career path. So I did choose the right one. I have dark days, but I'm in it for the long haul, and I'm also in this movement for as long as they'll have me.
With Brennan Brandon, all of Karen's quotes, is it worth it for Karen to testify?
I do not think she should testify. No, she has that constitutional right not to, but her quotes, I really would like her to stop. I'm sure she has stopped, but so much has been said so far, and it's being twisted and compared to one another. And I don't find anything problematic that she said. And feel free to go to other streams for my takes on that. But I'm not concerned about anything she did say. I do think that if she sits in the box, as they say, I don't know how well she would do under cross-examination by Brennan, on what could be perceivably inconsistencies.
So I want yeah,
I
I'm
might have
just
to put
posting some of the super chats.
my
Your
badass
glasses
glasses on.
off? That's
Yeah.
not a question. He's just making a comment.
Oh,
Yeah,
my
it
eyes
has
have faded being,
yeah.
being a lawyer for so long and then being a streamer staring at
Oh,
computer
yeah,
screens.
staring at the screens. That's why I had to get the bigger I either had to get a new computer with a big screen or a bigger laptop with a bigger screen because I just was, like, always squinting.
Yeah, and it's I
You
think it's
helped me get
also
that. I wanna thank you again for that because now I'm not squinting as much. I got the big screen in front of me.
oh, my pleasure. It was really I like to support and I will continue to support the content creators. The content creators help the messaging, Mike, and the content creators also help me get my information. So thank you to you. You don't need to thank me. Thank you to you and the chats. The
And
chats
the
give
audience, yeah. The audience, I get so much info from them. You never know who's watching. It's so funny.
yeah.
I wanna thank everybody who's been watching today, all the questions today. I wanna thank attorney, Nan Gallagher. Where can people find out we know Lawfario is on Twitter, X, everyone's following you there. If you're not, you gotta follow Nan. Where else can
Yeah.
people find you? You have a website too? Tell us about that.
Well, I do have my business, which no one's gonna really need to know much about it, but I do own the Nan Gallagher Law Group in Morristown, New Jersey, and Manhattan. I also our website is docadvocates.com. So if anyone has any interest in reading my bio, you can see it there. But as I'm kind of scaling back from doing streams, I will say that if anyone is interested in my thoughts, you might want to follow me on X. My handle is Lawfurio. Also, I have received a very surprising amount of friend requests to my personal Facebook page, which I generally don't accept those, but I did create like an official type of page for Facebook. It's pinned in my Twitter whatever you call it, the Twitter profile at the top, and it's I think it's called like Lawfurio or Nan Gallagher official or something like that, and that's where I will be putting most of my thoughts. But, you know, I'm sure you guys will be seeing me at some point. Like I think I'm doing my last scheduled stream for now. This evening, I think it's at 7 o'clock. I'll be on with Calling All Beings. And on occasion, I think I might be popping into Seeking Justice, just because they are like my sports center. They
Oh,
fit into my schedule a little bit.
the mornings. The
Yeah.
mornings are good for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah. It's funny because it's the opposite of me. They've asked me to go on there and I just like, I can't do mornings. I can't do it. I'm working. I got dogs to walk. Um, Always the dogs during the day, but this is perfect. This is perfect to do this today,
Yeah.
for me and you as
Oh,
well. I wanna ask you what was this other question I had? Actually, I wanna ask about Morrissey. Do you think Morrissey, his emails or himself will be any part of this Karen Reed case? There's been a lot of, filings and talk about it. Do you think it will actually come up on this retrial? Michael Morrissey, you think he'll be any part of the defense in what they're trying to bring out?
if Judge Bev allows it, yes. So he's on the witness list for the defense, which is a badass move. Um, I I I don't know where she's landed on or what the status is of Brennan reviewing Morrissey's emails on his personal email account. Like I don't understand why Brennan has been given the authority to be the one to review them and make those judgment calls as to what is or is not appropriate for release. If it is determined that parts of his emails, Morrissey's that is, or Meatball, a part of his emails can be released and are fair game, I think that that will become an issue in trial trial 2.0. I don't know what the defense wants out of Morrissey other than I think that this was done to posture. I think the defense was like, all right, we're rolling up our sleeves. We want Morrissey in the stand. But to be honest with you, I don't know. I don't know how much fruit is there. What is it? Low-hanging fruit for them to kind of procure from him, other than they're entitled to
The
pursue
emails.
questioning about his emails, and that this does seem to have been a bit of a targeted, very tunnel visioned type of investigation as it relates to Karen, with the failure to explore other viable alternatives, other third party culprits, replete with a now dishonorable and disgraced and defrocked Trooper Michael Proctor, who had his hands in everything. So they could ask Morrissey about all that stuff. I do think he will, if the judge allows it, and I would if I were the judge. If the judge allows it, he's going to Morrissey is going to play a supporting role in the re-prosecution or re-persecution of Ms. Karen Reed. Vote meatball, not pizza. All right, but I like meatball pizza. I just want to be very clear. Like pizza with meatballs on it, is like chef's kiss to me. Oh, hey, Nurse Kim. How are you?
Our Nurse Kim's in aisle 8 of Market Basket right now watching us. Thank you, Nurse Kim.
Is
Make sure
Market
you
Basket like a shopping
Yeah,
grocery
that's a
store?
food shopping place. It's we love it. It's a cheap place in New England that we all love, and yeah, Market Basket is a New England thing, and
Hey, Kim, at some point I'm planning to come up. Maybe we could get together. So would look forward to us connecting and enjoy Market Basket.
yeah, make sure you pick up that chicken salad for me. Gonna
And I see
bring
some by the way, that sounds delicious. I haven't eaten lunch. But just I see some comments in your chat with people saying, "Where's Nan going? Where's Nan go?" I'm not going anywhere, guys. I'm in it. I'm in this, and I'm not going anywhere. I'm just not going
You've
to.
done a lot of shows.
I've done a
You've
lot of
done
shows. I'm
yeah,
trying to support when I can, but I'm going to be in chats,
yeah,
and I'm still with all of you, and
and yeah.
I'm here.
You're phenomenal on Twitter. I wanna talk about one of your tweets recently too.
Oh
But before
shit.
we do that, I wanna ask this question. Nan, someone's asking, can they go to you for legal advice for malpractice? Michelle's asking about that.
For legal advice, for if you're talking about medical malpractice, absolutely. I would never give guidance to anyone on legal malpractice. Like I don't. I toe the line on what I'll even say that Brennan's doing wrong. But yeah, anyone can reach out. Although just want to be very clear, because since for some reason since last night, I've gotten a lot of emails to my law firm asking me questions and commenting on some recent developments. I just want to, if I can, Mike, just for a moment, say your best way to get me is through social media. So slide into my DMs if you want that.
Fario. Yeah, at Lawfario.
Yeah. And
Um,
there's a Facebook like special whatever. I think it's called a fan page, which is ridiculous.
that's right.
But
You have a page. Yeah, you
I have
have
a
a Facebook
page.
page.
I have a
Yeah.
page.
So Facebook page
Mhm.
or Twitter, X,
Yeah.
Lawfario. You posted about this I don't even know what we're calling him. He calls himself like Massachusetts attorney or something like that.
What a
But we
jerk.
nobody believes he's a real attorney. What does he call himself? Yeah,
Anonymous
anonymous lawyer.
lawyer.
Yeah.
Okay.
You posted
So,
this great response. Tell us all about it. I love it.
oh, am I telling you about? All right. All
Yeah,
right.
because people that didn't see it, just give us the breakdown because it was so phenomenal. I read the
Thank
whole
you,
thing and I
Mike.
was like, "Oh my god, I love this. This is so good."
So, like I said, every now and then I gotta go back and swat the hornet's nest,
Yeah.
which is, par for the course. So where did I write it? Oh my god. Um, Man, which one is it? I was kind of going back and forth with anonymous lawyer, but let's just say this. There was a Twitter account called Anonymous Lawyer that popped up in, wait for it, February or March. It was like February of 2025. So I do, as many of you do, draw inferences from how long an account has been on Twitter. I'm not by no means a Twitter veteran, but I've been on Twitter since 2019. I used to use it predominantly for professional reasons, but now I use it for free Karen Reed, free Turtle Boy reasons. But anyway, Anonymous Lawyer had made some commentary yesterday following Aiden's hearing, basically saying that Brennan and Anonymous Lawyer is obviously of the other side of the movement, but he or she made some comments about Brennan should have asked for communications between Aiden and Karen's attorneys. And if he had asked for that, then everything would have been great and Judge Sisitsky would have handed this stuff over. And I just went at Anonymous Lawyer. I don't have it in front of me, but I basically said, this ridiculous that you're even going this route. No judge is going to rule that the lawyers for a particular defendant are an extension of that defendant and therefore information mules between the defendant and another party and trying to intimidate witnesses. You're basically showing me that you're not a lawyer and that you're not have any experience with the legal field. Otherwise, you wouldn't put this ridiculousness in writing. And then we went back and forth a little bit. I don't remember all of the particulars other than to tell you that it is my strong belief that Anonymous Lawyer is not a lawyer and is probably some type of alter ego of other outspoken individuals, excuse me, on the other side of the movement. So I'm not
a guy who's putting a book out on April 1st.
Maybe
a guy in an attic.
I heard another theory. I heard that the Anonymous Lawyer might be related to another lawyer who used to, or who maybe still is, more of a TikTok type of lawyer.
Oh,
not,
yeah.
You know,
yeah.
You know what I'm talking about.
I do.
It's
not too many of those characters.
Certain pair of glasses.
Yeah.
Who is no longer on Twitter, by the way.
Yeah, she effed around and found out.
Exactly.
I remember that. She did that video.
Yeah. So
and then she found out. Like oh, it's so funny. And then she like, even if you make a comment or come back at her, she's like, "You're bullying me. Not bullying me." I'm just like, "Oh my God, you're so sensitive." Like, lawyers are usually tougher than that. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's different, but here's my feeling. I know Twitter can be referred to as a cesspool. I know sometimes it's best to, quote, ignore the trolls. I get it. People tell me, oh, ignore the trolls. I understand. And for the most part, I do. However, sometimes you just got to lay it down. And when someone is being so stupid, or someone is being putting themselves out there as a respected attorney or an anonymous attorney, and saying things that cut against the grain of what we as JD ESQs learn and practice every single day, I can't hold back, and I will not hold back. So, I think it's very important. It's a good tool for people to learn information. I learn more from all of you through Twitter and Facebook than you learn from me. So I hope we can continue to keep this symbiosis. I know Karen's team needs it. I know Aiden's team probably needs it. I can't speak for him. I have spoken to Karen's team in terms of her family unit and extended family unit. So please keep up all of the positivity, stay out of the drama, and make sure that you're all just keep showing up, because that's what I intend to do.
Show up. Tara Ellis says, "Can you explain the new Commonwealth filing, re-ARCA, from yesterday? And can Bev change her mind on letting them in?"
Man, I feel bad, Tara, because I don't think I saw it yet. Yesterday was so busy. I'm sure I have it on a Google Drive that my assistant set up for me, but I haven't looked at it. And I will tell you this, I feel bad that I can't give insight on that unless your chat wants to refresh my recollection a la Jen McCabe style. But Tara, please feel free to message me so I know how to get in touch with you. I'll find the filing after the stream and I will give you the answer that you're looking for. And I will also tell you, as far as ARCA is concerned, if Brennan, and this is where I think you might be going, if Brennan is kind of saying he wants more information about what has been exchanged, what has been paid, what did you get from what did the defense get from the feds, how much has been interrelated between the defense team and the feds, when was this subpoena, how much did you disclose in response to this subpoena that the feds gave to, I believe, Yannetti. If that's where I think your question might be going, which I did read that one, I will tell you there is one answer to all of this, and it is the following. Meatball Morrissey is perhaps the most paranoid individual I have ever heard of, read about, came across in my entire professional career. He wants to know and is now using Brennan as his lackey or puppet or mannequin to try to find out what the hell the feds are looking at, not what they were looking at. They are looking at it. And I will go to blows with anybody who tries to convince me that federal investigation is over. So Morrissey wants to know what they're looking at, or allegedly were looking at, who talked, who they asked questions of. They want to know, the prosecutor's office wants to know all of it so they can better prepare, whether it's for examining witnesses or for a future consequence of a legal nature that is heading their way. So,
Absolutely. Yeah,
yeah.
and part of that too is in that filing, there was a mention of a subpoena that
Yeah.
Yannetti was handing discovery to the feds still, so that indicates there's some type of probe still going on, so,
It's so
yeah.
interesting. I want to mention that because, now that I feel bad because that was it Tara, whatever her name was. I actually did read this filing. I want to be, I'm nothing unless I speak my mind. Um, I think that mentioning of the subpoena is being misunderstood. While let me be very clear, I firmly believe that the federal investigation is still ongoing. No one's going to convince me otherwise. The feds do not tell you when they close. They don't, and I know it firsthand. With that said, the filing by the very inartful Brennan
Mm.
or Commonwealth makes it sound like there was a subpoena and it came down sometime in March of 2025. It was poor wording on his part. What he's actually referring to, and if he knew how to draft an argument, it would have been better, but he's an idiot, and I will stand by that, that he is an idiot. What he meant was he was recounting David Yannetti's revelation in court the week prior, where Yannetti had told Judge Bev, I was under subpoena. Like I had to, whatever date that was, March, whatever. He said, we had a subpoena. We responded to the subpoena to the feds. The way Brennan wrote it is being misinterpreted, but in my opinion, by many, to think that there are subpoenas being issued as recently as now. And I do not think that's the case. So for what it's worth, I'm not trying to break hearts or squander hopes. I do believe that the federal investigation's ongoing, but I think it's being misinterpreted. So, oh, okay. When Brennan takes Karen's statements out of context to the jury, I assume the rule of completeness is a thing in mass. Does the defense just play hours, days of material to correct Hankey's twisting? Interesting. GV, I'm wondering if you're a lawyer. I'm very interested to see that. So I'm not 100% sure that Karen's statements are coming before the jury. Just want to be very clear about that. So Karen's statements given to journalists, so whether it's Julie Miller, whether it's Gretchen Voss, whether it's Boston 25, those are hearsay. There's an exception to hearsay for a party defendant, so she is that. But those statements that were made out of court have to come before a jury in an authenticated way. So the only way they come in, you don't get Brennan, for example, saying, and on this date she said this to the, Gretchen Voss, and on this date she said that. He's going to have to call the reporters to whom she said these statements and let them verify the veracity of what they've put into print. Like, did she say this to you on this date? Did she say that to you on that date? Okay, so let's assume that those hurdles are surmounted and the evidence comes before the jury. Then I will say the rule of completeness kind of does technically apply. The judge won't like that, but it's not permissible to take certain statements out of a broader, larger structure of a universe of statements and try to just cherry pick some and put them before a jury. That's potentially prejudicial. Then the probative value of them is not so strong. You need the context. So I don't know if these out of court statements will come into evidence. My suspicion is that Brennan has gone down these alternate discovery pathways to intimidate the defense and to procure those statements in the event that Karen testifies. If Karen testifies, he will confront her with those out of court statements as a method of impeachment, and her attorneys will have an opportunity to play, consistent with the rule of completeness, the broader universe of the entire interviews to hopefully clarify everything for the jury. Sorry for the long-winded answer, but that's kind of how it works. And this is the boring shit I do every day. So, yeah. Go to YouTube. Nan, go to YouTube time in closing arguments. David Yannetti, you will change your mind and say, I want David Yannetti to do the closing. Well, I did say, though, I think I said it, paranoia. I'd
That he
see.
might.
Yeah, like I think it should be AJ for both, but I think maybe even flip-flopping the two. And I want to be very clear. Will the Glare refers to Yannetti as a cerebral ninja, and I agree. He's fantastic. He also has a really, really firm handshake. Like my hand is still recovering. He really grips, and
Yeah,
you.
he does.
My
Yeah.
late father taught me you can tell a lot from someone from their handshake. So to Mr. Boston defender Yannetti, if you're ever watch this one day, you have a very impressive handshake, and that tells me a lot about you as a person, as does your methodology in the courtroom. I'm a big, big fan.
We should have asked him if he wrestled, because like I swear to God, all the wrestling dudes are like that I know. They're just like, and that I got the same
Like
thing from him.
those, whatever
Firm
those,
shinneck.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So,
Wonder.
yeah. So,
He's
by
a
the way,
North Shore kid too, so that's the way us North Shore kids are. We're just I want to thank you for being here, attorney Nan Gallagher. It's been a great almost what 2 hours, over 2 hours, two
oh,
hours and six
sorry.
minutes. Thank you so much for being here. You spent 2 hours with us, more than 2 hours. I want to thank you so much for being here. We'll be following you on Twitter and X. I love seeing you on X. It's amazing to watch all your posts. I hope everyone's following you. I want to
Thank
thank you
you.
so much for being here again and dropping all this information. You are so candid and professional and have the experience and expertise. So we're very thankful when you can come on the show here and speak to us.
Thanks, Mike. I appreciate everyone's time and yours. And also, I'm not going to be a stranger. And I'm not saying no more streams for me ever, other than I have one later. But I definitely want to say it's been a interesting ride for me, and I hope for any of you who are up in the Canton Dedham area, I at some point will be up there in April. I hope again to meet some of you and just keep showing up. Don't be a stranger. And I do plan on doing a little bit more live tweeting during the trial. So that's where people can probably find a little bit more pearls of wisdom for me. Thank you for having me. And guys, I hope all is well. Hang in there.
Thank you.
She's going to need it.
We look forward to seeing you too back up in Dedham, Canton area. We're looking forward to having you back in Massachusetts. Thank you so much for everything you've been doing.
Thank you.
Attorney Nan Gallagher, thank you so much. Have a great rest of your weekend.
Thank you, guys. Take care. Be well.
I know. Wow, that was great. She's so good. That was a great 2 hours. We have the Karen Reed standouts coming up tomorrow. Everyone got to check that out. If you haven't, KarenReedStandouts.com, you can find out where the standouts are happening tomorrow, Sunday morning. They're all over the country, all over the world. KarenReedStandouts.com. I hope to see a lot of you are out there tomorrow, standing out for Karen Reed. I want to thank everyone from our last show. We raised thousands of dollars again on the show. Sent a bunch of Young Jerk stickers out. I want to thank all of our viewers and supporters and contributors to Karen Reed Defense Fund. It's pinned in the chat tonight. If you want to do a donation to support Karen Reed, it's pinned in the chat. Been pinned all night, all day, I should say, daytime. Doing a double header today. That was our first show. Later on tonight at 6 p.m., we're going to change over. We're going to be talking about the Tupac trial. Heath Davis, have a gentleman who's a researcher. He's put out a lot of documentaries. He's been involved in some TV series, documentary series on the death of Tupac Shakur. We're talking about that today. He's written a book called Chaos Merchants. I can't wait to have him on the show. I've been watching him for decades. I think he's the leading researcher on Tupac, and I'm wicked excited to have him on the show tonight at 6 p.m. So check that out. Be here for that. It looks like I'm going to take off Sunday, I think. I'm not going to do a show. I don't think Sunday night. Who knows? We'll see. But Monday night, big show. Bettero is back. No super chats, please, on that show. It's going to be a great show. I can't wait to have Bettero back here on Sunday. I'm sorry, Monday. So tonight show on the Tupac, Monday with Bettero. And then on Friday, I'm going to have another special show with another local criminal defense attorney. I'm looking forward to that one as well. We got a lot going on. Karen Reed, the trial, the jury impanelment starts on Tuesday. A lot going on. Please like and subscribe if you haven't on the way out. I want to thank everyone. Hopefully I see you tonight at 6 p.m. and on Monday at 6 p.m. And I think that's it today on Karen Reed stuff. I was thinking I might drop more info, but I think I'm just going to chill for now. I'm happy right now. There's a lot happening. There's a lot behind the scenes, and there's going to be a lot happening. I'm just looking forward to it. I'm going to check the chat real quick. I want to thank definitely my moderators today. Stephanie, Sarah, Jeno, MJ, Scott McGinnis. And I want to thank everyone in the chat. Thank you, Miss Jessica. I know that you watch a lot. Thank you so much. Thank you, Caroline. I love our viewers. I love seeing the names that I know, the people who are here all the time. And thank you so much for being here. And yeah, justice for John O'Keefe, justice for Karen Reed. It's coming. Coming. Trust me on that. Yeah. It's coming. That's all I'll say. It's coming. It is coming. It's all coming. That's what I'm happy about. It's like a lot of stuff's going to be revealed soon. I'll see you guys soon. We can wait. Have a great night. I'll see you late. Actually, I'll see you tonight. Come back and have a great night with me at 6 p.m., please. I got a first-time guest. It's always nervous. You always get nervous when you have a first-time guest, and especially someone that you've been following for a decade. I'm looking forward to this tonight. Please be here. Check it out. Michael Carlin. He's got a lot to say about this murder trial of Keith Davis for the murder of Tupac Shakur. It's going to be good tonight. 6 p.m. I'll see you. Yeah, I'll see you tonight. Have a great night. I'll see you at 6. Have a great dinner, and then come see me at 6. All right, I'll see you then. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for all the super chatters too. I think I got them all up tonight. I didn't have to say no more super chats tonight, but thank you so much, everybody. We'll see you tonight.